This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to a rakish and thought-provoking hour of empowering women from boardroom to bedroom with Loran Starr. Over the next hour, we will examine how the bedroom and the boardroom intertwine and hope to ensure your needs are fulfilled. Loran Starr, international speaker, author, and thought leader on women's empowerment, will ask those questions that make you sit up, process, and empower yourself both in leadership and at home. Now here's your host, Loran Starr.
Well, welcome to another empowering hour. This is your host, Loran Starr, and you're listening to Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, ate plenty of turkey and plenty of pie. And that being said, hey, we're stepping out of the boardroom. We're jumping into the bedroom today as we explore relationships. We have a guest joining us in just a little bit, Elliott, and he has a best-selling book out on relationships. And why am I focusing on this topic now? Because you know what? This time of year is extremely stressful. Yes? Yes. I mean, raise your hands. How many of you think it's stressful, right? You're out, whether it's Hanukkah, whether it's Christmas, whether it's Kwanzaa. You're out doing the shopping, the cooking, the family, the friends. It's frantic. It's crazy. People aren't nice this time of year when you're in the department stores. It's very, very challenging, and we tend to forget to take care of our loved ones emotionally or have our own needs taken care of emotionally. We kind of put ourselves on the back burner. So that's why we're focusing on relationships. Couple reasons, top 10 reasons. I was doing a little bit of research for the show, as I do every week, and it was interesting to see some of the top reasons why marriages fail, especially if you're getting engaged this time of year. Money is not one of the top focuses anymore. They're actually, according to Farm Ranch Guide and also Deanie Tilson, one of the biggest issues is setting up boundaries in our relationships, poor marriage boundaries, or sometimes the marriage is just stacked against you. Communication comes in number 2. Yeah, and let's be honest, we've been talking about communication on this show. I mean, really, it's the crux of this show from the get-go, talking about how to keep emotions out of these conversations, out of these difficult conversations, especially when we're talking about our needs and our love life, and how we can get those met without throwing the blame or playing the blame game with our partner. So interesting stuff here. So how can you follow me? Let's get some of the technicalities out of the way here. You can go to www.loranstar.com. That's LAURANSTAR.com. You'll see my Facebook, my Twitter, my LinkedIn. Clicks right there. Click on those buttons, sign right in, and you can follow me. Also, if you go to Facebook.com/empowering women from boredom to bedroom, like that page, you can ask me questions right there, as well as you can ask my guest questions right there. Look, I know you're on the computer. I get it. So we're trying to make this as easy as possible for you to get your needs met, your questions answered while we're on the air. Believe it or not, trust in a relationship actually comes in down towards the end of the top 10 list. I'm sorry, I am going to sneeze in just a second. It's right there. But trust, as it should be the foundation of any marriage, actually comes in at number 9. Interesting for a healthy marriage and being a reason as to why marriages fail. But back to communication, because this is my spot, right? When we talk about communications and the breakdown of communications in a relationship, more often than not, we forget that we need to listen to our partner. Listening skills. I don't know why it is we go into conversations that are heated and emotional with our partners, and we don't bring a pad of paper, and we don't write things down to talk about. We don't write what our partner says in response down to any questions or any issues we may have. And what does that do? Well, it alienates our partner because you're not listening to your partner. You're thinking of your next response, kind of like that Achilles heel or the knee jerk response. And that in and of itself makes any type of communications difficult. The next thing that falls into line is emotions. We start playing the blame game. Well, maybe if you did this, maybe if you did that, versus maybe we should focus here or we should focus there. So interesting. And these are things that we can work on and that are pretty easy to work on day in and day out, especially when we're starting to talk about our needs. So let me ask you, and by a raise of hand, go ahead and raise your hand. How many of you have sat down with your partner and listed out where you want your relationship going? Go ahead, get those hands up high. Yep. Nice. About 60% of you. Nice. So what's going on with the other 40% of you? Do you not have the time? Because that's a cheap cop-out. Is it that you just don't think, you think that it's understood, that it's known, that both parties go, oh yeah, that's exactly, we're both definitely heading in the right direction. Hey, look, the thing is if you don't talk about it, you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there. You're always going to fall a little bit short because you haven't had that open dialogue. You haven't had that open dialogue. So how many of you, let's ask that next question. How many of you are out there, do you journal about your relationship and then share what you journal with your partner? I'm not saying you have to share with your partner. I'm just curious. Yeah, that's what I thought. Not a whole lot of you. For shame. Right? You don't have to share with your partner, but it does make sense to journal because in journaling, what happens? We can take a breather. We can take an emotional step back, and we can have a conversation without playing the blame game. Two important things to think about. All right, we are going to take a quick break because our guest is joining us. He is on the line. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are really going to tear into marriages and how to find solutions, not problems, in the love relationship. Tips and techniques. We've got Elliott Connie joining us, and don't go anywhere. You're listening to Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom. This is your host, Loran Starr, telling you not to touch that keyboard. We will be right back.
Are your needs being met at home? Bedroom Coaching focuses on sexual empowerment, partner communication, and stress reduction. Miss L goes where most coaches will not go and asks the questions that need asking. Elle is the national leader and creator of Bedroom Coaching. Want more information? Go to www.thetaboocorner.com or email Miss L at thetaboocorner@yahoo.com today. The bedroom is more than a room in your house. It's a place for harmony and fulfillment. Feeling alone now that you've climbed the corporate ladder? Struggling with creating personal goals? Not sure who can help you move forward at work or at home? Well, you're not alone. Loran Starr offers a full spectrum of coaching options for today's women. Her coaching style is unique as it combines coaching and mentoring, leaving you with actionable solutions for today's challenges. From women's leadership, women's executive, and women's bedroom coaching, Loran Starr will have you moving forward. Contact Loran Starr today and receive a complimentary coaching session. Go to www.loranstarr.com for more information or email Loran at loran@loranstarr.com today.
Welcome back to Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom. This is your host, Loran Starr, and joining us now is the best-selling author, Elliott Connie. He's also a well-known marriage counselor who trains clinicians worldwide in solution-focused brief therapy, focusing on problems on the worst way to solve them. So kind of a reverse approach. He has a best-selling book out right now called The Solution-Focused Marriage. Elliott, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
My pleasure. So let's dig a little bit deeper into your background. Your website, Elliott Speaks, that's ELLIOTT Speaks, SPEAKS, has a beautiful picture of you as your groom. You've been married 8 years.
Yep.
Has it been all like love and roses?
No.
Oh, right. So
it's been a challenge as everybody else's.
Everybody else's. I just wanted to get that out there because some of my listeners are going, well, it might be perfect for him, but it's not perfect for us. And I think it's really important that people realize that every marriage has issues, and it's how we deal with them. What prompted you to write this book, Elliott?
Well, what prompted me to write the book is when I got my counseling license and began seeing clients, I started noticing that I had this growing passion to work with relationships. Because relationships are something that are so easy to take for granted. And as a result of taking them for granted, we stop doing the habits that make us very successful in relationships. Mm-hmm. So in my work, doing solution-focused work, I would talk to people about these habits and talk to people about building on solutions instead of solving problems. And I got to watch some of the most difficult, trying, troubling relationships and relationship problems dissolve and turn into amazing, long-term, loving relationships. And it made me want to spread the word more. So I started traveling and teaching therapists how to do this, and eventually traveling all over the world doing it. And I also started writing books about it.
Nice. So you're talking about building on your skills versus putting out fires.
Absolutely. I'm talking about understanding what strengths and assets each partner brings into the relationship and trying to use those as opposed to trying to identify all the flaws that your partner brings to the relationship and trying to avoid them. Because those are two completely different mindsets.
Okay. Is this easy work? Is it difficult work?
It's disciplined work. I don't know if I can say it's easy or difficult, but I can say that it's simple and it's disciplined. It's just like, if you want to be in shape, you have to have habits that facilitate being in shape. You have to eat well, you have to work out, you have to do things. And the byproduct will be having a physique or body that is in shape. Well, a relationship is the same. If you want to have a powerful, long-term, loving relationship, you have to be doing things in order for that to be happening. And it's really easy to stop doing those things.
It really is. Let me ask you, from your clinical standpoint, why is it people stop doing those easy things?
Well, because I think the loving relationship is the one that has consequences that are not immediate. So, for example, if I go to work tomorrow and I say, I'm going to be the worst employee in the history of employees, I'm going to get fired immediately. Or if I wake up and I say, I'm going to be the worst parent in the history of parents, I'm going to lose my children immediately. But if I wake up tomorrow and I say I'm going to be the worst husband in the history of husbands, I will probably not experience the consequences of that decision for months and maybe even years before I realize a problem has even set in. So because of that, with the low amount of immediacy, the low amount of acuteness with the problems in relationships, it's easy to pick up bad habits without even knowing that we're doing it. Mm-hmm. So we have to get back to establishing really, really good habits. And in the early days of dating, like when we're dating, we're accidentally doing it well, but we tend to not be paying a lot of attention. We give the success away. So we're building a relationship in a very strong, positive, powerful way. And if someone says, hey, man, your relationship looks like it's going really well, how are you doing it? We don't say, because I'm good at this relationship and so is she. We say, oh, Cupid just shot me in the heart, or karma finally's on my side, or I finally met the right person. No. You have a talent that you're applying, and someone else has a talent they're applying, and the manifestation is a positive relationship. And once we realize that, then we can continue those habits for a very, very long time.
I love what you just said. My listeners out there, you are definitely going to want to make sure that you get a copy of this show so that you can write that comment down. Because you don't have to just apply that in your relationships. You can apply it in the boardroom as well, focusing on your strengths. Do you find that people, when we're talking about relationships, so when we're in the boardroom, when we're working, if there's an issue, we tend to hit it head on. But in relationships, we kind of almost stick our head in the sand. Right. How do we get around that avoidance issue, or how do we shift our thinking so that we're not avoiding that? He chews with his mouth open, you let it dwell and dwell and dwell, and then eventually you're hitting him off the head with a frying pan.
Well, it's because it's so funny. I like your analogy in the boardroom. When something goes wrong at work, we tend to get all the resources we can at work, and we ask very intelligent, simple questions. What's the best way to solve this? And in relationships, we should do the same thing. Like when there's a problem that pops into our relationship, we should say, what's the best way to go about resolving this? Because it's probably not criticizing your partner for chewing with their mouth open. It's probably something else, something more positive, something more productive. And it's also probably not pretending like it doesn't bother you. There is a solution out there, and we have to talk about it. We have to assess for strengths and resources and talent in order for the problem to go away effectively.
So how do we get over that prickly feeling of talking about it? I mean, that's what it all boils down to. Yes, communication, sitting down and saying, hey, we need to talk about this. How do we get, or how do my listeners get around that? Because that's a crappy feeling. I mean, even me just saying we've got to talk about it, I'm like, ugh, that's conflict management 101. Ugh.
That's true. And, my answer might surprise you, and it's very simple. But the way you get around that is by having conversations more frequently about positive things. Because here's what happens. If I go home and I say, if anybody goes home and they say to their partner, hey, I need to talk, we immediately get that ew feeling that you were just referring to because we know some negative information is about to come out. However, if I do a good job as a partner, as a strength finder in my relationship, of saying to my wife, hey, we need to talk. You're doing this well, or you're doing that well, or you're doing this well, or you're doing that well. When a problem comes up, it doesn't feel like it's tipping the scale in the way that it does normally, because we tend to not talk about the positive things. We keep those to ourselves for some reason. And my approach in my book is about letting that stuff out, sitting down and saying, hey, we need to talk because things are going so well, we need to learn how we're doing it. So when a problem does pop up, we don't feel like it's tipping the boat over. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be able to do that. Because problems are going to pop up, and when they do, we'll have the strength and resources to talk about them, and we'll talk about them as teammates instead of adversaries.
I like that, teammates instead of adversaries, because I do find that when couples get into those heated conversations, they go at each other like they're fencing.
Right. That's exactly. I mean, we get really defensive. If someone brings up a problem, the natural human response is to start defending why you did the thing that the other person believes led to the problem.
Oh, absolutely. It's tit for tat.
That's exactly right. But if we spend time conversating about what we like about each other, which, by the way, I don't believe most couples do enough of, but if we spend time talking and conversating and joining together about what we like about each other and what each other is doing and how we're constructing this relationship, and then I say, oh, by the way, I don't like that you did A, B, or C thing, I feel like my teammate just said that, so I'm not likely to get defensive or experience it as a negative.
I love it. I will say, Elliott, after I read your book, read it cover to cover, fabulous piece of work. Again, that book is called The Solution-Focused Marriage. You can get it on Amazon.com. I didn't just apply this to my marriage. I actually found that I'm changing how I'm talking to my kids because I'm focusing more on the positive than the negative. So the book has so many applications, and it just makes sense.
I totally agree. I titled it The Solution-Focused Marriage because relationships and romantic relationships in particular are where my passion is. But this is really about relating to anyone in your life that you care about, not just your marital partner.
So here's the thing. You're on the air right now, Elliott, right? So if you decide to repurpose this work, I want 10%. Okay. So
Done.
done. You all heard that. Done. Okay. So one of the sections in your book, you talk about replacing where we're at with where we want to be. Let's go through that.
Well, I think a relationship is just like every other partnership. It has to have a goal. It has to have a direction. So we have to be able to conversate about where we want to be much more than we're able to talk about where we're currently at. And when we're able to do that and we're on the same page about the type of relationship that we're building, then every assumption made is a positive assumption made about our partner thereafter. So, for example, if me and my wife have a conversation and we both want to build a relationship where, let's say, we want to retire early, right? Mm-hmm. If we're both on the same page about that, when she discovers that I've been taking money out of my paycheck and putting it into a savings account, her assumption is going to be he's doing that so we have enough money for this early retirement. But if we haven't talked about what we're doing, and my wife discovers I've been taking money and putting it into a secret savings account, she's going to think he's hiding money for some, negative plan that I'm not aware of. So we've got to talk about where we're going. It's just like in a work setting. We have to talk about goals in the future and tomorrow and all of those things. If we want to manifest it in a positive way, we've got to be able to do it. And in my experience, most couples don't talk about where they're going and what they're building and how they're building it. And we have to.
I agree. I've got a question coming in on Facebook right now. Listener wants to know, what are those areas that you want to be focusing on? So I get where my listener's coming from. Her concern is, where do you want to be? It's kind of like, almost like ambivalent. I don't think people really sit down and think about that and say, where do I want this relationship going? So I'm not sure this is going to be an easy answer for our listener. But what are some of the areas that we want to be in, such as retirement and financial? Where else?
Sure. The answer to that question is detailed. So it doesn't matter where you want to be as long as you're describing it in great detail. So not just, I want to be happy in the future. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where would you like to be living? Where would you like to be working? How many kids do we want to be having? Do we want a house, an apartment, a condo? Do we want to be in the city, in the country? Do we want to live in the city where we're currently living? Or does one of us want to go get a degree later on in life? Do we want to change careers? Details, details, details. And it should be something that we continuously check in on, because the plans may change. I might decide, I don't want to retire early. I happen to acquire an advanced degree, and I get to be a professor, and I can do that for the rest of my life. So we have to just stay on course and keep having conversations. But there is no wrong answer. My only answer is details. Extrapolate as many details as you possibly can about the picture, about the future. If you think about it like this, you want to have a nice global picture that you can literally visualize the life that you and your partner are creating, and every minute detail is in the picture. Once the picture is that clear, then it becomes magnetizing, and it almost draws you and your partner towards it. So you don't have to start working to create it. You're so in sync with it that it starts to manifest itself in every decision that you guys make.
I like that. I like that a lot. I got another listener wants to know. Okay, so the show is called Boardroom to Bedroom. So realize that a lot of my listeners are taking their boardroom application and bringing them into the home life. Should you be applying SMART to these goals and directions, making it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and on a timeline?
I would say yes and no, because I don't envision that you treat your romantic relationship as if there are not emotions at play. So yes, you should be applying all of those facets at home, but just remember you're working with someone that you're in love with. So we're building a picture, but in that picture is emotion, because some of the things in the future is things about sex and things about affection and things about romance. Those are all part of the plan. So we get to say things like, I want to be part of a relationship where we're being physically intimate once a week or twice a week or whatever the case may be. Or I want to make sure that we're still holding hands when we're going for walks. I want to make sure that we're still going to movie theaters. Like, it's okay to have those emotional details as part of what you're building towards the future.
I like that. Hopefully that answered my listener's question. Makes perfect sense to me. You talk about looking beyond flaws. You mentioned it earlier in the show, looking beyond the flaws, finding the positive, discussing your honeymoon phase instead. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, during the honeymoon phase of your relationship, most people, the relationship was just so euphoric and enjoyable that we forgot to, take stock in what we're doing that's contributing to the positive growth of this relationship. And we have to be able to get back to that a little bit. We have to ask questions like, what is it you like about me? And what is it you like about you? Those are the very conversations we have in dates 1, 2, and 3. And I think we need to have that still on date 3,000 and 4,000. We need to keep having conversations about what's right about you and what's right about me. Because what we're really trying to do is apply our strengths and our talents to the relationship. And that's very hard to do if we're not aware of what our strengths and our talents are. I like to refer, this is like the Michael Jordan effect, right? Michael Jordan didn't go play basketball trying to not have his flaws cause him to lose. He tried to amplify his strengths so he could win. And that's what we should do in our relationships. We should identify and amplify our strengths. And we do this through conversation. We simply say to our partners, what do you like about me? And here are the things I like about you. There's an old Maya Angelou quote that says, when we know better, we do better. Well, how many people out there know more about their flaws than they do their talents? Then that means they're accidentally going to be utilizing their flaws. So by doing this, you become much more aware of your talents and thus utilize them more.
Are you a big fan of journaling?
I am, if you're a journaler. I'm a big fan of people doing what they do well. Some people are very artistic. Some people are very verbal. I have a client once who said, I'm not a journaler, but I talk really well. So this person started leaving video messages for their partner and emailing to them, which is very easy to do now with iPhone technology.
Yeah, it is. So, it's also very hot. Please leave your clothes on, people, because you never know who's going to get their hands on it.
Very true. But no, his were not vulgar. But no, I'm a big fan of using whatever medium is your strength and not using medium that are not your strength. If I ask somebody to do something that is not within their strength, then they're not going to continue to do it, or they're not going to do it well.
Could you then journal what it is you like about your partner and what it is you like about yourself? I mean, it almost sounds like we're building relationship esteem.
Yes, that's exactly
I like
right.
that.
That's exactly right.
All right, you heard that first on Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom.
There's another royalty I will be sending you. But, yeah,
Elliott, you and I are going to be great colleagues here.
Yeah, I know, because I'm going to be making you wealthy.
Exactly. Right. No, so, but seriously, I mean, it's taking stock of your relationship and seeing what's good about it and what's not good.
If you want somebody in your life to be performing highly, then the best and first thing you should do is make that person feel good, make that person more aware of what they do well. And in relationships, we tend to fall down at that. You mentioned kids earlier. You don't when you want your kid to get A's, you don't tell them how dumb they are. But in relationships, we do say stuff like that, and it just baffles me. I'm trying to get the very best out of you. There's no way I should criticize you. I can't criticize you because I want you to be your very, very best. You being your best is good for me, and me being my best is good for you. So there's no way I can use language like that to describe you.
All right, I've got somebody on Facebook now, Karen, and she is saying, no way this works. It sounds almost too easy.
Try it.
I like that challenge. Try it, Karen. Stop talking to me. Call your freaking husband.
It's simple, but it is not easy because it requires a tremendous amount of discipline. And when people say that to me, I oftentimes say, try it.
Discipline. Let's talk about that discipline.
Well, because
how do we make that discipline easier? Because you're right. I mean, I see this anytime you're trying to shift, nobody's going to change you, but anytime you try to shift, it takes repetitive action. So let's talk about that. How do we make this easier for my listeners then?
By making it a daily habit, by making it a choice that they're going to apply these thoughts, actions, and activities daily. And again, to go back to the example of fitness, it's just like fitness. You know, when you go to the gym and you try to run 1 mile, that first day you're going to be huffing and puffing and dripping in sweat, and you're going to walk some of it and all of that stuff. But if you continue over the period of weeks and months and years, all of a sudden 1 mile is not enough of a challenge. You need to push yourself even further and further and further because your skill set becomes so much more proficient. And my challenge is for relationships to do that in their home life. Just know that it's going to build in the exact same way. It's not easy. It's going to feel uncomfortable. How do I say complimenting things to this person that I'm angry at? And how do I say positive things to this person that I don't feel like I'm in love with anymore? Try it, because you will see very quickly, all of a sudden I'm running a bit faster. I'm running a bit smoother. I'm not falling down as much. And oh my goodness, my partner is too. And that's the goal. We're trying to get the best out of each other, people. So we have to talk about that.
Just try and put, yeah, I like that. How can my listeners put a plan together? I mean, are there steps, Elliott, that they can do to create a routine? Is it really dependent on the relationship?
Well, it depends on the relationship. It depends on the hours of the partners in the relationship. It depends on each couple. One of the best things I could say is for most people, you know, you have a traditional kind of 9-to-5 job, 8 to 4, you know, that kind of thing. So at some point at the end of the day, carve out time to sit down and say, here are the things that occurred today that made me pleased with you. That simple activity. At the end of the day, sit down and say, here are the things that occurred today that made me very pleased with you. What we have to remember is problems make us talk. So if I choose to never say a positive word to my children, to my wife, to my whatever, problems are going to eventually make me say to my wife, hey, we need to talk. Success does not make us talk. We have to create opportunities to talk about success. So I advocate that couples, at the end of the day, sit down and say, here's what's going on that's making me quite pleased to be in a relationship with you.
And if they have to really think about it?
That's a good thing, because we don't talk and think like that very naturally. So if we have to think about it, that's okay. That means we're coming up with useful data.
Okay.
Later on, when the problem comes up to make us talk, it's not going to feel like it's tipping the scale.
Okay, because I can see, I can see people sitting down, some of my listeners sitting down, even myself at times, I'll be honest with you. There are some days where I'm like, really? Nothing.
But that goes back to what I was saying about taking people for granted. Think about how many wonderful things your partners are doing on a daily basis that if they stopped doing them, you'd be angry and upset. But because they do them every single day, makes the coffee or whatever it is, we just take them for granted. But if they stopped doing it, you would be bothered by it. You would take it as a sign that this person no longer loves me. Like, hey, you're not kissing me before you go off to work anymore. Or, hey, you didn't make the coffee before you left. Or, you didn't fill my gas tank on Sundays like you used to. Whatever it is. So there's never an absence of positive information that we can be recounting to our partner. It's always there, constantly. We just don't experience it until it's removed. So I want you to shift your perspective and give verbiage to that positive stuff.
I love it. I mean, it really does sound simple. Back to what one of my listeners was saying, Karen, that this sounds just way too simple to put into action, but it just makes sense.
As Albert Einstein once said, simple means effective.
Simple means effective. I like that.
Something complicated, it has more likelihood of breaking down.
Let's talk about roles in a marriage.
Yes.
My husband and I, we joke around a lot that that's a husbandly duty or a wifely duty or a husbandly role or a wifely role. Are those roles set in stone? And if not, how do we establish new roles?
No, I don't think those roles should be set in stone. In fact, I think those roles should be based on whatever talents and strengths each partner possesses. Like, for example, in my relationship, my wife happens to be better with money. So even though money is more of the husbandly role, it behooves me to give that over to my wife because that happens to be her strength. I happen to be more organized. So in my household, I do much more of the cooking and the cleaning because that falls within my strength. We shouldn't start assessing whether or not it's a woman job or a man job or a husband job or a wife job. We shouldn't let our egos get in the way. We shouldn't let our anything get in the way except what is your personality and what are your strengths and how do we use them for the betterment of this relationship.
So rather than roles, we should be playing solely to strengths.
We should be playing solely to strengths. A couple of weeks ago, I was flying back from doing some lecturing in Toronto, and I had the chance to watch the movie Jobs about the founding of Apple between Jobs and Wozniak. Mm-hmm. Now, Steve Jobs and Wozniak, each one of them had two very particular set of skills. And one of their greatest strengths were their egos did not get in the way between each other. Even though they both had massive egos, they got in the way of other places. Their egos did not get in the way of each other. Jobs said, here's what I bring to the table, and Wozniak said, here's what I bring to the table. They combined those strengths, and they grew the biggest company in the world. That's what we need to do in our relationships. Just take whatever your strengths are and combine them and grow your entity, grow your being, grow your relationship.
I love it. We're going to take a quick break because I know my listeners are typing fast and furiously. Facebook is lighting up left and right. When we come back, Elliott will still be here. Fear not, so don't go anywhere. But we're going to be talking about how to define those strengths and really digging deep. All right, you're listening to Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom. This is your host, Loran Starr, with Elliott joining us, and we're telling you right now, don't you dare touch that keyboard because we'll know. We'll be right back.
Are your needs being met at home? Bedroom Coaching focuses on sexual empowerment, partner communication, and stress reduction. Miss L goes where most coaches will not go and asks the questions that need asking. Elle is the national leader and creator of Bedroom Coaching. Want more information? Go to www.thetaboocorner.com or email Miss L at thetaboocorner@yahoo.com today. The bedroom is more than a room in your house. It's a place for harmony and fulfillment. Feeling alone now that you've climbed the corporate ladder? Struggling with creating personal goals? Not sure who can help you move forward at work or at home? Well, you're not alone. Loran Starr offers a full spectrum of coaching options for today's women. Her coaching style is unique as it combines coaching and mentoring, leaving you with actionable solutions for today's challenges. From women's leadership, women's executive, and women's bedroom coaching, Loran Starr will have you moving forward. Contact Loran Starr today and receive a complimentary coaching session. Go to www.loranstarr.com for more information or email Loran at loran@loranstarr.com today.
Welcome back to Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom. This is your host, Loran Starr, and joining us is Elliott Connie, who is here talking about his best-selling book, The Solution-Focused Marriage, as well as discussing ways that you can turn marriage problems into marriage solutions. And it makes perfect sense. It does sound, Elliott, it does sound too easy, but as I'm thinking through this, you know what? It's critical that we do this.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
I think you're like, I would agree, Loran. That's what my book's about. So thank you for that endorsement. You're very welcome. So let's talk about defining your marriage.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about goal setting. Like, you just have to have a mission. You know, if you were starting a company, the first thing if you started a company and you went to the bank, and you needed a loan, and you said, "Hi, Mr. Banker, I need a loan." The first thing they want to know is your company's mission statement. So for your relationship, like, what are you constructing? What are you building? What are you working on? What are you co-constructing? What type of relationship do you want to be coexisting in? These are conversations we need to have. And think about, when I was planning my wedding, the priest said something to me that stuck with me. What he said was, make sure you plan a marriage, not a wedding. And when my wife and I were planning the wedding, we had all kinds of conversations about what we wanted, down to the color of the napkins, right? We're talking about every single detail of how that wedding weekend would go. Well, why stop there? Why not continue to have conversations about every single detail about how the rest of your life will go? Because that's where I think the beauty of this approach is.
I love it. And I think, let me ask you this, because I know my answer. Do you think we stop redefining our marriage because we get bored with the marriage? Like, it's not fresh, it's not new, it's not shiny, it's not sparkly anymore.
I think we stop redefining our marriage because we forget that it is new and beautiful and shiny. Marriage is something that we have a tendency to compare to other people's more positively. So when you see another couple walking down the street holding hands, you think, look at how fresh, new, and shiny theirs is. And you forget that yours is just as fresh and shiny. You just have to attend to it. You just have to talk about it. You have to watch for it. You have to mold it. You have to be alive with it. You know, every single day, my wife wakes up evolved ever so slightly. And my job is to help that evolved part of her fall in love with me and to fall in love with that evolved part of her. And once we think about marriage like that, then we don't get bored with it because it's a little bit new every single day. And that's the way we should treat people.
Keeping it new every single day. I've got another question coming in. Okay, here we go.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, buckle up, right? What if you can't find any strengths about your partner? It's very easy to find weaknesses. What if you can't find strengths about your partner? Does that mean it's time for you to consider the marriage not a good thing?
No, I think it means it's time for you to look harder. I think it's really easy for us all to accept there are no perfect people on the planet, right? No one would argue with that, correct? Well, if that's true, then there's no perfectly imperfect person on the planet either. Every single person has strengths. We just have to look hard to find them, because there's a solid chance in a relationship that we're either so disconnected, so resentful, so angry, so hurt, so whatever, that we've lost our ability to see the good. And that's not all our partner's fault. That's also our fault because we're not looking hard enough for their good. And when we look hard enough and when we see it, they have literally no choice but to show it to them. Have you ever seen a young kid? This is my favorite thing in the world. You ever see a young kid, very young, like a 3-year-old boy, starts to catch on that when I do good things, my parent likes it and gets happy. So then they'll start doing things. Like they'll come to you and they'll say, hey, Mom, come here. Watch me put my toys back in the toy chest, right? It's because they know you're watching for what's good about them. That's a very human instinct. That's what we do. So in a relationship, if we look really hard and we dig really deep and we search real far to find the good things of our partners, their natural human response is to show us more of those good things. We've been doing it since we were 3 years old. It doesn't stop because we're adults.
That makes, I like it. Another question coming in. How do you keep arguments on track in a relationship?
By not losing sight of the purpose. I don't think arguments should ever get off of track because I don't think they should ever turn into arguments. Argument implies criticism. It implies adversarial nature. It implies I have a stance and you have a stance. It implies win-lose. And I think that we should always have debates, and sometimes those debates turn into lively conversations, but we should never lose focus of what we're constructing as a coupleship, what we're doing as a relationship. And when we do that, then we never argue. We just build. We just construct. We never lose that teammate sensation. And I think that's what I'm talking about. When you have these positive conversations, you're not likely to argue because you never feel like we're not on the same page. Arguments manifest themselves because we feel like we've gotten off the same page and we have to implement our strategies to get back on the same page, which between the two people are often two different strategies.
At what point should a couple be looking at therapy?
I think, wow, that's a really good question. I think that anytime you want something better, therapy can help. I think people wait until there's a problem in order to see a therapist. And I think that therapy should be more viewed as something that would make something better as opposed to something that would solve a problem.
Why is there such a stigmatism around marriage therapy?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, you're asking a very biased person as a marriage therapist.
I know. But I'm sure you must hear it coming in. I mean, as a marriage therapist, you must sit back at some point and just go, if you came in 2 years before this, you would be on such a different track.
Well, it's true. And I think with most marriage therapists, again, I practice a very different form of therapy called solution-focused brief therapy. But someone has created or somehow contributed to a problem, and they're going to come to the therapist and be bludgeoned for the presence of that problem. But in this type of therapy, we're just so interested in how we need to co-construct the future that neither person really feels attacked in the therapy. And that's really what most people are afraid of in coming to therapy, that I'm going to get attacked for whatever presence of this problem. Like maybe I cheated, or maybe I kept some sort of secret, or I hurt my partner, whatever it is. And therapy should be constructive. It should not be destructive. And I think part of the reason the stigma exists is because my field helped it exist by hurting people, by causing people to come to therapy and not experiencing the most welcoming, most healing place. And luckily, we're much better at it now, and we can provide that type of environment for people.
I like that, and I do agree. I think I like your definition that, or the way you put it. Anytime you want something better, that's a good time to reach out and have a third party come in and act as a sounding board, because it does take some of that emotional jabbing or sparring out of the equation.
Sure, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit more about you. Where can my listeners go to find more information? I know I gave it at the top of the hour, but where can they go to find out more information? Because you do a decent amount of speaking. Where can they go hear you speak, Elliott?
Well, they can hear me speak. The best place to catch up with my speaking is by going to my website, which is elliotspeaks.com. And I have my speaking schedule on my site. I'm about to post my 2014 schedule. I speak at a lot of professional organizations teaching therapists how to practice this approach, and I also speak at a lot of churches speaking to couples about how to implement these practices in their relationship. So if you visit elliotspeaks.com, ELLIOTT speaks.com, and see my speaking schedule, you can also buy my books there. You'll be abreast on where I'll be traveling.
I like that. Also, do you do any type of, I've got a couple of people that are asking if you do any type of phone coaching on relationships, or is it all face-to-face?
I do. Well, most of it's face-to-face, but yes, I do phone coaching as well. And people can send me an email. You can contact me through that website, and I'd be happy to schedule a phone consult and hopefully get your relationships back on track.
I like that. I like that. You can reach, again, that email address is www.elliotspeaks, ELLIOTT, speaks, SPEAKS.com. Email address, do you want my listeners emailing you, or do you want them emailing me?
No. They can email me directly. It's very simple. contact@elliottconnie.com.
Awesome. What's next for you, besides the kids' book?
I'd like to probably relax and enjoy the holidays, and then, my schedule gets crazy again after the New Year, so I'm gonna relax and enjoy my family, enjoy my wife during the holiday season.
Nice. And are you looking at another book, you think, or?
Oh, yeah. There will be another book coming out in 2014, another relationship book, so everybody please stay posted. You will like this one, I'm sure.
Stay posted. I'm loving it. Elliott, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been excellent.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
My pleasure, my pleasure. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, ma'am. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Definitely. Bye-bye. So that was Elliott Connie. I'll spell the last name, Connie, or you can go right to my CTR page. Go to www.ctrnetwork.com. Go right to Loran Starr, and you'll see more of Elliott's information right there. It sounds like he does do a little bit of coaching there. So those of my listeners out there that are asking, by all means, contact him directly, or you can shoot me an email at loranstar.com, and I will gladly forward over your information to him, and he can reach back to you, and you can set up some coaching sessions. So what was your big takeaway? Let me ask you that. What was your big takeaway out there? I'll tell you one thing that Elliott mentioned. I'm really loving his comment about going in and seeking relationship coaching or therapy, whatever you want to call it. I don't give a shit. Coaching, therapy, but getting in before there's a problem, and learning the skills to put you on the right track, so that you can move forward. Because look, we only live this life once. Whether or not you come back, that's your decision. But we're only here in this moment, so you got to live it to the fullest. I think also a huge takeaway, again, that book, the book that he has out right now that I do suggest that you go pick up a copy, The Solution-Focused Marriage, not just for marriages. I mean, I really thought that this title could have been just solution-focused, period, because I found I was taking a lot of those tips away from my kids, where I was sitting back going, focus more on the positive, more affirmation, work on that relationship. Because let's face it, every time you come in contact with a person, there's an opportunity for a relationship to start. And this kind of bridged that. It kind of, it's a nice, easy to read book. It is a very easy to read book, with tons and tons of tips. You are definitely going to get your money's worth out of this book. So that was another thing that I took away going, definitely with my kids, with my coworkers, with my colleagues, and then again with my partner as well. Focusing on the positive and building a where are we going versus where are we at. So always looking at the future. Dynamite stuff. Alrighty. So you can go to my website, www.loranstar.com. That's LAURANSTAR. If you missed any of today's show, by all means, sign up for the podcast, because it will automatically be emailed to you. And guess what? So won't the remaining of the shows for the next however many years we've got left here. Because yes, 2014 is right around the corner, and I am not going anywhere. You will still hear me on Mondays, same time, same bat channel. Woohoo! But yeah, so go to my website, sign up for those podcasts to be sent over to you. You can also sign up for anything else that you want to on my website. That's totally up to you. You're listening to Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom. This is your host, Loran Starr, telling you to have an amazingly empowered day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Empowering Women from Boardroom to Bedroom with Loran Starr. Visit her website at www.loranstar.com. That's Loran, Lauran, star.com. Or call her directly at 603-606-1178. Join her again next Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern for another Empowered Hour.